today, an organization, BuenaVista Information Systems. They are a veteran-owned IT and cybersecurity company. They are very focused on helping businesses stay secure, resilient, and prepared in today's evolving digital environment. As cybersecurity threats continue to grow, having trusted technology partners and strong information security practices have never been more important, not only for large businesses, but businesses of all sizes. And our featured speaker today is Mr. Andres Lorduy. Mr. Lorduy is a graduate of the Citadel and a U.S. Army veteran specializing in IT and network security. He is the co-founder of BuenaVista Information Systems, which he founded alongside his brother Adrian and his cousin Jose. Also, Miriam is with us here today also. But Andres, he holds a master's degree in technology management with a concentration in information security from Georgetown University. Andres and his brother Adrian were recognized as the SBDC Entrepreneurs of the Year and received the SBA Best Veteran Business Person Award in South Carolina. It's pretty awesome. So we are really honored to have him with us today to kind of share his knowledge, expertise on cybersecurity, information security, and protecting businesses in today's digital world. So please welcome me and welcome Mr. Andres Lorduy. Andres, turn over to you, sir.
Hello, everyone. Like you said, my name is Andres Lorduy. I got some information there about me coming up, but today we're going to be talking about protecting what matters, and our mission statement is simplifying IT and protecting what matters, a simple IT and cybersecurity roadmap for small businesses. So we're going to go over today what you should think about having in place, what you should already have in place, what's commonly missing, and some simple actionable steps that you could all take to start this journey if you haven't already started it, or if you have, ways that you can improve it. So, as it was mentioned, I went to Citadel, right? But I want to go to something here, right, that I felt was necessary to mention. You can go to the next slide. It shows up at the top that I went to the Citadel, but I'd like to go a little bit before that, where things kind of started off. And I mentioned it earlier before we started this presentation. I got into IT because of a very specific reason. I don't like technology. I don't like technology because I broke it a lot growing up, and I got in trouble a lot by my dad because I kept breaking computers. So it actually started as I was a graphic designer in marketing and graphic design. That was my first career. I worked in that for like 4 years. And from being a poor college student, you have to wiggle your way around and get some software that's very expensive so you can go to college. And in that process, you break a lot of computers, right? Dad's computer, he gets mad. You got to fix it before he gets home. And before you knew it, I was replete with a bunch of knowledge and a bunch of information that at one point you thought you were just, getting one over these corporations, but then you end up learning that, wow, the Army really appreciates this, and they can put me into a program where I could end up being a nodal analyst. So that's kind of what happened. That's how I got into this whole thing. So I got into the Army, and from there I was stationed in Fort Gordon, and this is the Cybersecurity Center for Excellence for the whole Army. That's kind of where I started. I was in the Signal Corps, and then from there, this is the funny part, I went to the Citadel because I was trying to get away from IT, because as I mentioned, I was a graphic designer. I went to university. I went to design school for graphic design. I didn't like IT. In fact, I didn't even really understand what I had just gone through. That I got a crash course year training on information security, on defense systems, and all this stuff, and I wanted nothing to do with it. But there's two very important lessons that I learned with my choice of career is that once you get graphic design and once you get IT on your resume, those are the only two things anybody ever asks about, because everybody wants a logo and everyone has a computer. So I ended up going to the Citadel where I studied criminal justice. I wanted to get into intelligence, so I studied Homeland Security. And then my design background got me a minor in fine arts. So I ended up doing a temp job at Jayad of South, which is the defense. It's like an interagency, like what they call the Fusion Center, where it's like the headquarters of the war on drugs on this side of the U.S. The other one is in Hawaii. I was in Key West. So that would be Jayad of South. And there I learned a bunch of OPSEC principles, how to manage databases, how to track a lot of data, learned things that I never thought I would. But very, very interesting things happened there. And especially, and I think the most important one was OPSEC, which is how to passively and casually protect information about whatever it is that you're doing, right? So without giving too much information, right? How to talk to a taxi driver about what you do without telling him what you actually do. All of those things are important because you don't want to just go talk, man, I made a profit this year, 10%. Like, you don't want to be saying that at the food line. You would rather have that conversation on the phone maybe, or with your tax analyst. So from there, I went to Cigna Healthcare, and what I learned from Cigna is that HIPAA requirements, so for health information security, can be a lot more strict than at least what you would expect from some Department of Defense and government sectors. So I went from the war on drugs to selling drugs with Cigna Healthcare. No, I'm just kidding. It's a joke. But I learned there how strict HIPAA can be and the ridiculous amounts of checks that there are. And I understand why. You're dealing with people's health information. From there, I kind of made up my mind. I said, you know what? I'm going to stop fighting. I'm going to stop trying to get out of the black hole. And I gave myself in to the singularity, and I let myself be sucked completely into the, so then I went to Georgetown University, where I got a master's degree in technology management and information security. And my thesis was on a regulation standard called CMMC for contractors, for defense contractors. So I did one. I went to Texas and I did one for a defense contractor over there with a buddy of ours. He's a colleague. He had another cybersecurity company, and we did it together. And then I worked for the Defense Health Agency, and finally the U.S. Department of State before I went full time at BuenaVista. So that's me. That's what I do, and that's how I got here. Who would have thought a graphic designer would end up being here doing a presentation like this? So next slide, please. Now, what I'd like to get into is there's a little bit of a difference, right? Sometimes people confuse cybersecurity and IT. I didn't put it here, but I think it's worth mentioning that whenever I tell people I'm in IT, they almost immediately say, I've got a phone and this app isn't working. And I got to tell them, well, when someone says I'm a psychiatrist, you didn't say my back hurts. Can you take a look at it? There are many different kinds of technology, many different kinds of requirements. But for this, specifically for this presentation, we're going to be talking about IT, so that's computers, ancillary equipment like printers, software, firmware, different kinds of procedures, services, and related resources, including the internet, and also regulation. On the cybersecurity side, that's the art of protecting networks, devices, and data from unauthorized access or criminal use. I didn't put it in here, and going through these slides, I realized that I probably should have, but also regular old human error. So how much of your daily life relies on technology? How much of your personal information is stored on your computer, smartphone, or someone else's cloud? How much of your businesses? These are questions that you should be asking yourself. Next slide, please. So these are a couple of ways that IT and cybersecurity impact your business. Insurance and liability. So large contracts and clients expect cyber liability and data breach coverage. $2 million is the floor for most government RFPs required just to bid. Second is compliance. There's HIPAA, FINRA, CMMC, different variations of the NIST framework, FERPA, and other non-compliance. Having non-compliance can end your ability to win contracts or operate at all. For example, CMMC is the defense one. It was just voted into law. So back when I did the first audit for it, it was 2022 or 2021. I'm sorry. And there was a rumor that if you didn't get it, right, then you could lose all of your contracts and you were not going to be able to function anymore, right? So if your business was based on government contracting, if you didn't have CMMC, it's the equivalent of HIPAA for government contractors, then you were no longer going to be able to do any work. The problem with that is that if you already held a contract, $2,300,000, whatever it was, they will take it away and you will no longer be able to bid. So you would not only lose what you have, you wouldn't be able to gain any more after that. Then you have HR and people. So HR and IT are very well connected. onboarding, offboarding, and permissions are all IT functions. They're not just HR ones. Then business continuity. It's one of our favorite talking points at BuenaVista. Business continuity, the way we look at it is if any one part of your business fails, how can your business continue to go, and how resilient is it to changes or failures? How fault tolerant is it? So the cloud is not a backup. You have to have a deeper plan than just the cloud, because that could go down, and we've seen it. Finally, we have productivity and profit. If your people can work easier, your company will make more money. It's very simple. And you see little quotations here. These are actually quotes from me, from different presentations and different videos, because we had a YouTube channel at one point. It's still there. But these are quotes from that, and we realized that some of them were actually kind of funny, a little bit down to earth, very different than your typical. One of our pillars at BuenaVista is to try to make things enjoyable, try to make it understandable for people. But one of the questions that we bring up is, what if a meteor just blew up your building and your company is gone? Where was all that data? Do you have a plan to continue if your building is gone? If there's a fire, if there's a hurricane, what is your plan? Right? A lot of people, well, it's on the cloud. Okay, well, Microsoft has gone down. Amazon has gone down. Microsoft hosts their cloud servers on Amazon's and vice versa. So if one of those clouds are down, then where is your data? Right? You have to ask yourself all of these questions. Next slide, please. So you're probably thinking, I have an antivirus. I have insurance. I have my nephew who's going to school for IT. But getting cyber insurance is actually a lot more difficult than some people think. Cyber insurance, there's two types that you need to know about. There's cyber liability insurance, which covers your errors and omissions. If a breach happens due to something your company did or didn't do, this covers that liability that would ultimately fall on you. And then there's data breach coverage. If ransomware encrypts all of your data, you should be covered for an amount equal to the value of the data lost, at the very least. Okay, so the average coverage, like I said in this slide before, is about $2 million in damages, and most government RFPs start at $2 million, and you can't bid if you don't have it, so you can't even play ball with them. To get covered, you need to identify your need, liability versus breach. You need to assess the impact on your bottom line. That's risk assessment. You need to know how much, for example, if I lost the CEO's computer, how will that affect our ability to make money? That is where that comes down to. What happens if the internet in the main building goes down and it's full of 6 employees? What happens? Do they all get the day off? How does that affect you per day? Right? And finally, complete an IT assessment for risk analysis. So if you're prepared, the insurance company will cover you correctly. If you're not prepared, they'll either refuse to cover you or charge you an arm and a leg. Next slide, please. Then we're going to talk about, this is my personal favorite one. I actually learned this in the Army. It's a very nice guy from General Dynamics. He taught us the meaning of PEBCAC, which is that the problem exists between the keyboard and the chair. So in other words, it's you. You are the problem. People don't like to hear that because people have, especially entrepreneurs, we have this ego. Like, I can do it all. I did that talk. I sold this product. I built this company. But that's exactly what scammers, what hackers, the kind of things that they like to take advantage of. They know the kind of things that you'd be willing. That's why a lot of these scammers, they'll send you, hey, we want to write an article about you. Oh, you do? Oh man, where do I sign up? You click on the link and there you go. It's all over. Yeah, just like that. And they're taking advantage of that ego that we have as entrepreneurs. And I can say, at least for me, I've got that. And my brother's 10 times worse. Just kidding. So PEBCAC is detrimental to the integrity of your business. A lack of training increases the likelihood that your business will be affected by malicious actors. In IT, a lot of the times, people don't like to feel that things are their fault, but people are the things that are causing their companies to be vulnerable. So we're going to go over some examples here later, but some normal ones are you fire somebody or they quit, whatever. They leave the company, they make an exit, and they have all the passwords. And they didn't do it maliciously. They just deleted their account. So now everything is gone. That's simple. Or you fired somebody or they left and they do it maliciously. and now everything is still gone, right? And then you remember that one quote that you got from the IT company, and you call them up and you say, hey, these people deleted all this stuff. What can we do? And you say, man, it's too late. Like, we don't have authority over that data anymore. It's gone. So, oh, but can't Microsoft, can't Facebook, can't Instagram? No, that's your responsibility. That's called the shared responsibility model, like I was talking about earlier. That's where all of these third-party services explain in their user agreements that it is your responsibility to secure your data. Their responsibility is to secure their servers. So they take care of the infrastructure, you take care of your product. So 85% of firms with less than 1,000 employees have been successfully attacked. That's from Duke University. An Accenture study said that 43% of all cyber attacks targeted companies with less than 100 employees. 60% of attacked businesses closed their doors within 6 months. Ask yourself right now, could you hire a person that costs $30,000 right now just for the fun of it? Maybe to do some front office stuff. Could you pay the taxes for hiring them, payroll taxes and all that? If the answer is no, then you definitely cannot afford a $100,000 ransomware. That would probably kill your business in a lot of cases. Finally, $287,000 are the average legal cost per cybercrime incident for small to medium businesses. So, between getting ransomed, getting money stolen, and getting sued, you could put yourself at risk just by not having certain plans and assessments in place. Now, it sounds like doom and gloom, okay, and that's because it sort of is, but there are things that you could do. Next slide, please. Thank you. Here we have a couple of examples of people who didn't take the right measures and kind of what happened to them. So names are withheld to protect client privacy, and these are real businesses with real consequences, people that we actually know. I picked 3 of my favorite, and I say my favorite very loosely here. It is a tragedy what happened to some of these people, but at the same time, they are lessons. I always say that if you fail to adapt, you either become a lesson for yourself or a lesson for everybody else. And in this case, these people became lessons for others, except for one of them. They actually learned from their mistake and they outgrew it. So the first one is, in this case, that means that your business is making a lot of money and you're really, really efficient. You could probably pay your way out of a legal situation. However, you have no protection, so you're extremely at risk. In this case, Jose's Tire Services in the tri-state area, he chose a $32,000 tire machine over QuickBooks at $2,400 per year. He mixed personal and business finances and missed tax deadlines, and he pierced the corporate veil. What I mean by that is that he used his corporate assets to do things for fun on his own end. He used it for grocery. He used it to fund a soccer team. A lot of things that you shouldn't be doing with a corporate card unless you have a specific plan in place, right? If you have a marketing strategy or something where you say that that's all part of your business plan. He didn't do that. The result, they got Al Capone, right? Which means they can get you, right? They got Al Capone on tax tax fraud and tax evasion. The IRS can shut down any business that can't pay them. Second, the worst that could happen, when people say, what's the worst that could happen? It's operational and compliance failure. There was a medical practice out in Mount Pleasant, South Carolina. And they were 10 years in business. They called us because they got a weird email from a Turkish email address from a domain. And we were like, man, they're getting hacked, and this is crazy. From Turkey? I've never seen this before. It's usually Iran or China or Russia or India. And we were like, man, this is interesting. We've never seen anything like this. So we went.
I hate when IT guys say that's interesting. Never interesting. Go ahead.
No, it's kind of like when a virologist goes like, man, there's this crazy new virus out. It's so interesting. It's interesting to them, but anyways, what's the worst that could happen? We went and we found out that there was indeed someone from Turkey using an email in the business, or that was claimed by the business originally to run whatever it is that they were doing in Turkey. I don't know. And then we find out that it wasn't a hack. A person quit. They accepted a job somewhere else. closer to where they lived, about by 40 minutes. And they left the company. And like I said before, they were the administrator, they were the secretary, they were the schedule setter, and everything that they had on their entire medical practice was related to their private, non-business Apple ID. So when the person left, they deleted that Apple ID because it was attached to their personal name, and like 5 years of schedules, all of the documents attached to that Google, to the Google Drive, everything that was connected to that account, websites, Google reviews, everything was wiped out in an instant. Everything. And after 10 years of business, unfortunately, we could not save them. There was too much damage done, and they had to close their doors. So, yep, they called us a little too late. We didn't realize what was happening until Apple explained what happened when we spoke to them, and we were like, wait, so there was this person that was working here. We learned that, hey, you know what? Yeah, when she quit, she deleted the account, and all operations collapsed because of various HIPAA violations. That you should never, if you have a medical practice or anything like that, you should never have any kind of client or patient data on any kind of personal account. It all needs to be protected and ran through third-party software that's protected properly to be HIPAA aligned. They didn't do any of that. And finally, an actual cybercrime. So here, I'm not sure if you see the three different classifications here. We have a tax and accounting negligence. So this is just pure negligence. The second one is operational and compliance failure. And the third one is spoofing and social engineering, which was an actual cybercrime incident for one of our clients. So they're a financial planning firm. They received a spoofed call from one of their most profitable client banks requesting a $250,000 wire transfer. They complied twice, 2 times they did it. So they sent $250,000 twice. No email filters, no passphrase policy, no call to check in. And then the client asked, hey, why am I missing $500,000? And they had to tell everyone exactly what happened, right? They had to send an email to all of their clients. Now imagine getting an email from your financial planner saying that, hey, we just sent $500,000 to a bad actor from one of our other clients. Please make sure all your money is where it belongs. So fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. $500,000 lost. The most lucrative client that they ever had left immediately. Luckily, they're still in business. They're thriving, and they're one of our favorite clients. So what's commonly missing? Typically missing in small businesses are IT assessments and security audits. They don't have to be these big, crazy $38,000 ones. They could be short ones. They could, I believe the IRS actually has like a short self audit that you can do. Well, so maybe speaking from a person that's done other more, right? You're right. So relatively short compared to other audits. IT assessment, security audits, written IT security policies. If you're writing down your business plan, in there you should also have IT security policies or references to other IT security documents. Yeah? That's good. Email filtering and anti-phishing tools, that's a big one. Separate corporate accounts versus personal. So you shouldn't be using ladykiller214@gmail.com to run, Pamela's muffin shop or whatever. I can't even think of anything. But separate your corporate accounts, right? And that also means the other way around. So the inverse. You shouldn't be using, Jake at Pamela's Muffins to sign up for your YouTube premium accounts or anything like that. You should separate those two as much as possible. Proper offboarding, so revoking access. This happens a lot. People get fired and they don't have a written down offboarding process for when they get rid of someone or when someone quits, and they leave lots of holes, right, where things could leak through.
So somebody quit 2 years ago, and I'm having to unravel passwords because that person, this I'm like the third person removed from that person, and it's a nightmare.
Oh yeah, that's a very common problem. So then tested backup and disaster recovery plans. So what am I going to do if a hurricane comes this way? Where am I going to go? Where's my data? Is it in a server? Is the server backing up to the cloud? You should always have 3 different points of backup. A physical and maybe 2 cloud. There's different ways you could do it. Employee security awareness training. This should be happening often. Passphrase policy for wire transfers. So if you're doing any kind of wire transfers, you should have a passphrase policy. Have a thing where your clients have to confirm a passphrase, and maybe you change that up every year, maybe you change it up every quarter, but there should be a passphrase policy for those kinds of things, and not just wire transfers, but any kind of sensitive procedure. Then HIPAA and other compliance documentation. If you have done an audit, or if you have done an assessment, or you are preparing for an audit, you should have, like he said earlier, you should have everything documented. There should be paper everywhere, ready for the next audit. So why these gaps are dangerous? The first step in fixing your problem is realizing that you have some in the first place. And that's where awareness comes in. You can't fix it if you don't know that it's happening. You don't know if something is dead if you don't put your finger on the pulse. Don't take stuff that you found outside and plug it into your computer. That is the fastest way to destroy your company, your network. And I was about to tell you. So the Department of Homeland Security ran a test a few years ago in 2018, where they put USB drives with the U.S. State Department logo on the thumb drive, and they threw them around the parking lot, and 90% of employees, maybe you know not to do it, but your employees don't. They took them and they plugged them into State Department computers. So they failed the test miserably. You have to tell your employees what it sounds obvious, but sometimes obvious is not enough. You got to tell people. You got to be explicit about what they can and cannot do. Those are also the kinds of things that cyber insurance and liability coverages ask about. They want to make sure that your employees know not to do. You ever wonder why there's a do not eat thing on the shampoo bottle? Because right. It's you know not to eat shampoo, but some people do it anyways. So.
Right there.
Sure.
So, and I think I know the answer to it. If, in my case, a lot of times the person will put data on a USB drive. I need to bring my own USB drive but then I need data.
Yeah.
They have it on desktop.
Mm-hmm.
They're not in the cloud yet. That's what we're working to. So we get a thumb drive to put that. How does that's what that says?
There are programs to protect, right? There are different ways to do it. There are programs that will open up. I don't want to get really technical, but there are programs that will open up, like pocket computers within your computer, or like what you call virtual machines. So it'll make another computer in your computer, open it in there, and see if there's anything wrong with it, right? That kind of stuff. That's some of the things that we do. But there are other much more simpler ways of doing it, but there are ways to protect. You can ask us a little bit after that. We can go over that. But yeah, there's absolutely ways around that. USBs are not the enemy, but you should treat them like it. So yes. It's a very good question. But human error is widely believed to be the cause of most data breaches. A simple click on a phishing email, the installation of unauthorized media, and even leaving your computer unsecured, which happens a lot. These are how your business becomes a wide open target. And I actually learned that in high school. The leaving your computer open. So we were pretty aggressive, and also high schoolers, about getting onto our friends' Facebooks and MySpace page. Remember MySpace? No, I don't know. And we would post all types of horrible things on their Facebook and MySpaces, and then people kind of got used to it because they said, well, I guess it's my fault. I didn't lock my phone, or I didn't lock my computer. So I learned that early. But that's something that most people should be doing when you get up. Something as simple as hitting the little Windows key on if you have a Windows computer, and the letter L at the same time will lock your computer. And just like that, you can go up, you can go to lunch, you can do whatever. No one's going to get on your computer. Finally, vulnerabilities represent gaps in your IT's armor that can leave you exposed. A lack of budget leads to outdated equipment, faulty processes, and a fragile infrastructure. So with no budget, no IT support, no awareness training, and outdated software, a cyber incident is imminent, or an operational failure, or a costly compliance violation. You can go to the next. Oh, you know what? That's funny. I didn't even tell you to go to that one, but there you go. We went through all of that just now. Yeah, so I forgot to tell you to click to the next one. But we can probably keep that up there for a couple of seconds. Does anyone have any questions about any of these while the people at home they can take a screenshot of this maybe. We can go to the next one.
Offboarding.
Oh yeah, sure.
Explain that in a nutshell, what kind of process you're talking about to still make sure that you protect your data that they may have access to or created that you may need to get?
Absolutely. Okay, so for Microsoft 365 or Microsoft Entra, which is what it's currently called, it used to be called Azure, and also for Google Workspace, if you created a user account for one of your employees, let's say that you are about to let them go or you have to do layoffs. You call them in, HR is talking to them. In that moment, that is the moment, right, where you get your IT guy to go lock their account, right, delete whatever it is that they were, right, any personal files or anything that they have, and then they back up their personnel file onto whatever chosen cloud or backup service that you have. Then you can delete their account, but you have a copy of all their data elsewhere.
Okay.
Right? Then they can't go back and get into their computer and take stuff. That's it. Right? So it's in that moment.
This is the same as if, you have someone working for you and you have that email routed to, is it the same thing?
Yes. Yeah. You could also do that. There are where maybe they're getting correspondence from people that they weren't supposed to be getting correspondence from, or clients that are still attached to them. You could make it so that emails get automatically routed to whoever the next person in line is. But all of those things should also be documented and written in your IT security policy, where you say, if this happens or if this role is removed, right, then such and such thing should happen next. So there should be a bit of a logic map, where it's like a lot of if-then statements, right? But yeah, that was a good question.
What?
Sure.
Maybe you said that the cloud is not the backup.
No, it's not. What a lot of people believe is that I have Microsoft 365, and if I do work on my computer, it shows up on the cloud and I can work on it at home. That's not the same thing as a backup, as a legitimate backup. That is cloud compatibility and that is fault tolerance, but that is not a backup. A backup is another service, right, that is unrelated to the one that you're currently using to do whatever it is, that work that you're using, takes that data, copies it, and puts it somewhere else, right? So that is a backup. It is a secondary or tertiary process that copies data from one place to another and creates fault tolerance.
Does that backup have to be physical or it can be cloud-based?
It can be cloud-based. So you can use clouds to back up to other clouds. Okay. There are, for example, there are some cyber insurances that require you to have physical and cloud. If you're in a place like Puerto Rico, Key West, or even South Carolina, there's a lot of hurricanes in these areas, and you should have a physical place where you keep the data, right, elsewhere where it's not going to be affected. So, for example, I have family in Connecticut. I have an uncle who's also in IT. We could hypothetically keep a server over there where I know that the worst that we're going to get over there is a blizzard or a nor'easter or whatever. If we have that, then if there is a hurricane or whatever it is that's happening over here, and I know that Amazon has warehouses and Amazon has data centers, and Google actually has a pretty big data center in Charleston, that have gone down sometimes, and you can't access your data. At least we still have the data in Connecticut, right? So always, like, I think we had one client that he's a construction guy. He said it very cleanly. He was like, this is my entire company. He held this little box, and he was like, this is the whole thing. And it's a huge company, great, really awesome clients, but he very simplistic in their approach to things. And it's exactly the right way to look at it. He looked at this little box and he was like, this is my company and I can take it anywhere if I have to keep working. And he's right. So it could be either one.
So I guess the other question too is small businesses who have, I don't know, Spectrum decides to go out, I don't know, the day before tax season, April the 14th. Mm-hmm. Is it, and you're in this building, is there a way that you can have, I guess, maybe another type of
Another internet service provider?
redundancy?
Yes, absolutely. That's called a failover, and they sell routers specifically meant to trunk them both together. In my house,
and that was a real last.
Yeah.
This sounded real personal.
It happens all the time. So, for example, yesterday, in my house, I have I think the T-Mobile hotspot, the 5G hotspot. So you can use that, right, on one. I didn't even realize that my AT&T went out, and I was like, man, why is the internet so slow? And I went, and I just had some work done in my home. And when I checked, the modem for the AT&T was unplugged, the fiber. And I was like, oh, that's why it's so slow. But it kicked on the other one. So the other one was still working while, the AT&T was off. So yes, you can absolutely do that. And we always recommend it. Paying $50 for the 5G hotspot is really not. Right. It's worth it. It's worth it.
Really got it
that same day. Yeah, it's definitely worth it. But let's get into these simple, actionable steps to strengthen your protection. So number one, get an IT assessment, right? You can't protect what you don't understand. It's like it's just like going to the doctor and doing a checkup. You don't know what to take, what medicines, what changes, what lifestyle adjustments, if you don't know what's wrong. Okay. So secondly, separate personal and business. If you're doing this, it might be a bit of a difficult process if you already use your business email for everything. I know some people are very, very deeply ingrained into their personal, using personal things with their business accounts. Slowly start to split it, go home, make a new Gmail account, whatever it is, but start to separate everything as soon as possible. Third, build an offboarding process. That's very important for you, for documents, for people, for partners, for anything. Unfortunately, that's all right. We lost a partner about a year ago, and it was at that time that we realized that, man, there are other types of failovers that you're supposed to have, like things that you don't foresee, like premature deaths and things like that. So even in all kinds of situations, you should have at least an idea that something may happen. But then that comes into what I'll get to in a moment, testing your backups and doing risk tolerance, right? So testing your backups, do it now. If you have OneDrive, you should go and pay the $3 it costs to get the 1 terabyte on Google, because it really costs just $3 a month, at least the one that I have. I don't know if that's maybe an old package, but you can do that, and then you can have one connect to the other and back up, across each other. Schedule an actual restore test. So hit the button that says restore now, update, sync, whatever it is. It has a bunch of different names. And when you do that, you can go to the other one, to the service that's backing up, and you can see if the data is actually there, if it's stable. This one client that we had, they had this really elaborate backup setup, and when we went and we checked, and they're, inside the actual storage devices, it says that, yes, it's being stored. And they're like, see, we set it up right. Our friend did it. And when I checked, what was being backed up was the configuration of the backup, not the data within it. So it was telling the other service, do it like this. And the other service was like, okay, got it. We're going to do that when you're ready. And every other night, it was like, okay, get ready. But they never got anything. And when I told them, hey, you got 5 years of uncopied data. Yeah, you got 5 years of configuration data and none of the stuff you actually want to copy down. They said, well, how could that have happened? I was like, well, you hired your cousin that's studying IT, whatever it is. Yes.
Backing up. And is there a time frame as it relates to the old file, old data that you clean that junk out, or,
all of that depends on, so let me ask you this. Are you asking about like the integrity of the actual files, like if the files degrade, or are you asking legally or for any other?
I'm asking
The first one?
Yeah.
No, not really. But remember that files, computers, all of this stuff that you see on the screen, all of these are, it's electricity, it's electrons, and it's little tiny microscopic moving parts. So when you save a file, right? Again, not to get super technical, but when you save a file, you're altering some hardware in some place, some little tiny piece of metal is moving and saying, this is what this thing is. Okay. Those things can get corrupted, right? And when something gets corrupted, a lot of times it's unrecoverable. So that's why you have to have multiple copies. So yes, maybe you have a picture, which is, by the way, why NFTs are such a bad idea. So I know that's way gone, but don't ever. And I don't know, have you guys heard of NFTs at all? Yeah, they're pictures. So they're called non-fungible tokens. So that's where people pay real human dollars.
Oh no.
Yep, to purchase digital assets. Like a Da Vinci, the same way that you would say, oh, this is worth $2 million. They'll buy a JPEG image or a GIF or a GIF or whatever. I don't know if you guys are GIF or GIF people. But anyways, you shouldn't do that kind of stuff. You shouldn't put all of your eggs in one basket because it's data. It could corrupt, right? Just the same way that a picture could get wet and be completely ruined or get stolen. Same thing could happen, but in a different way with digital assets. So have multiple copies because it can get corrupted. There's no real time frame. It can just happen. So, fifth, train your people. Phishing simulations, trick them. Do honeypots, right? A honeypot is where you set something up really nice that looks like something they might want to click on. They click on it and then they get trapped. And now, hey, you just failed this test. You clicked on this. I promise you did not win $1 million. You clicked on it. And so, I mean, in other words, they're also looking for a way out of your business because they're like, oh, I want $1 million. I want to get it. I'm just kidding. But, yeah, so phishing simulations, password policies, wire transfer verification.
You guys know the phishing simulation?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
One of my previous jobs, we had to go through the training of it, and within the next 3 months, they sent out those emails to see how many people clicked on the links.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we do that all the time. And then the people who click on the links, there's a score. Again, everything is gamified. It makes things easier to do. They have to sit through a grueling reminder and training course. For HR purposes, yeah.
I guess from an owner's perspective, I understand training. I get all of that. I don't know. Somebody had a bad day. They just decide to click on the link. And it starts to spread. What's the other than screaming and cussing somebody else?
That's where you get into business continuity and disaster recovery. That's where you start doing things like quarantine. But if you're following a lot of these steps, and you should already have cyber liability insurance, and if you have your backups, you can just stop everything, and they'll try to ransom you. We're not going to turn, and you could say, I don't care, do whatever you want because, on the Google Drive, you have 28 terabytes of all of your business.
Got you. Okay.
So, yeah, so you can let them do whatever, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of times they'll get access to stuff. You just call your bank, say, hey, you can even do this before. You can do it preemptively where you tell them, hey, if people call, if it's not me or this person, don't let them do X, Y, Z. So yeah, your staff, like you said, is actually your biggest vulnerability and your best defense. So they're both. If you train them right, nothing will get past them. I had a friend, good friend of mine. He actually was with me at Jihad of South, and we both got into risk and cybersecurity. He was hired by a company, right? It was a bank, to get into the bank and to get into internal bank computers. You know what he did?
He got into the bank.
You know how he did it?
Boy.
What he did was that he walked to the front, he went to like Kinko's and he got out like a cotton white t-shirt and he got one of those cheap printers. He put the logo of the bank here and he put like printer guide or something like that. He walked in with a clipboard and he said, hey, I'm here to check the printer in the back. And they were like, which printer? And he said, the one in the break room. He didn't know. They were like, oh yeah, that thing has been giving us problems. They let him in. And he plugged in what's called a Bash Bunny, which is a little USB drive that has an automatic script and automatic code that runs when you plug it in. And he took a bunch of data. And then he told the CFO, hey, these are the people that let me in. This is what happened. To his defense, to their defense, after a while, they got suspicious and they called the police, but they still let him, and they let him get that far. So it doesn't matter if he went to jail. Like the Bash Bunny could have been sending information to somewhere else. Bank data, your bank data. So
you don't have to plug it into a physical computer. It can be a peripheral.
Yes, absolutely. Yep, that's called the Internet of Things. And the reason, so if you ask any IT guy, they don't have a digital doorbell. They don't have a washing machine that can toast stuff for you via Bluetooth connection. They don't do that. We don't believe in that stuff for the most part, because all you're doing is introducing holes into your home defense or into your business defense. If you can go dumber, that's usually better, right? And well, how am I going to automate things? Hire an IT company, or an IT person, right? Let them do it, and they'll do it for you. But don't just get stuff because it seems easier. A lot of times what you're doing is that you're introducing a camera or a server or a neat little, like a thing that says hello when people walk in. But then the company that made it in China doesn't work anymore. They closed, they went bankrupt, and now there's no more updates for that particular device. And if somebody gets your Wi-Fi, which they can, and they do, and it's very easy to get into a Wi-Fi, they can get into that device, and through that device get into everything else. So yes, that is a big problem. That is currently, especially with AI, which is finding all manner of vulnerabilities. And recently, I don't know if you guys heard about this, but there was an AI from Anthropic, the same people that did Claude. I can't remember. I think it's called Mythic. Correct me if I'm wrong. I can't remember the exact name. But they just had to quarantine the AI because it created its own attacks trying to solve new ones. And it is so dangerous that our government and many other governments are not allowing it to leave Anthropic, because if they let it free, then it can be a huge disaster, right? And I'm not talking Y2K where numbers go, and I mean like a serious problem, because it's creating new attacks that we've never even understood or heard of before.
I charge my phone with my
with your computer.
With my computer, I don't plug mine up.
I don't use any of those charging stations.
No, don't. Yeah, don't do that. No.
If it doesn't plug into my car or into my wall,
yeah,
I don't use it.
Yeah, especially not ones that say NSA courtesy charger. So, and then finally, get the right insurance. Identify whether you need cyber liability, data breach coverage, or both. Are you a regulated industry? Do you need to have, are there specific requirements that you need to have? And compliance is part of the package. Usually if you're doing one, it'll cover a lot of stuff for the other. So you actually said it earlier when you said that, you try to keep everyone away from everything, right? Don't give access to everyone for role-based access. I said it here very crudely. I said, act like everyone is trying to break into everything all the time. And if you do that, your company will be a lot more secure. So, you go to the next one. And here we have, one of the easiest things that you could do, right? I say here it's all doom and gloom, but there is good news. You can stop it. And you can stop it by starting with your mentality about these things. So having a mind change. The difference between price versus value. Here, going back to the QuickBooks version, or the QuickBooks example, you can see that what you pay today, QuickBooks at $2,400 a year, looks expensive until you compare it to the IRS shutting your business down.
Let me make it simpler. If you don't have QuickBooks, I'm going to charge you about $5,000, so let's do it.
Even better.
Yeah.
Even better. Yeah, because someone has to do it.
Right.
And they're going to charge you because of your mess. So, right, exactly. And then secondly, value. So what protection, continuity, and compliance are worth long term. $500,000 wire fraud is far more expensive than a basic email filter that costs $1,000 a year, for example, or $300, whatever it is. But you didn't just win $1 million. I promise you, don't open phishing emails, especially if they are promising you $1 million. And finally, find someone who can handle your IT environment, someone you trust, that you like, and that can handle your systems. And everyone has specific needs. Usually this is not your cousin. So next step, we do offer a free cybersecurity assessment and consultation. There's no obligation attached to it. You can get a full assessment where we cover the basics. And you get to see in real time. We'll get your passwords. We'll get your employees' passwords. We'll get your internet history. We'll get everything. We'll see who has what roles, who has what access, and you'll get to see it. And we'll give it to you, and you can keep a copy of that. And from there, Miriam, you can. I don't know if you have any promotions or anything, Miriam.
Yeah. So this paper here, that's a little roadmap explaining a little bit of what Andres talked about today. And you can share that information with your team members, and the pamphlet also gives you a little bit more insight of what we do, the businesses we work with, and yeah, feel free to share the information with businesses that you think need our services.
And if you're not ready for an IT employee, or if you don't think that your revenue is where it needs to be for a full IT or cybersecurity firm, you should still take these steps to start to get there. Because just like anything else, there's a certain point where you hit a revenue threshold where it's just the tax of doing business. You got to do it. In one form or another, it's either a legal, insurance, or regulation requirement, but somebody's going to want you to do it because this is a very serious thing that's happening and getting worse every day. So that's it for my presentation. Does anyone